Hey UConn Nation, it's KK Arnold here. If you're looking for the latest UConn women's basketball content, go subscribe to listen up to Phil and Ryan. Go Huskies!
And a good morning, Ryan, to you Sunday morning from London. No, I'm just kidding. We're not in London. I knew you would break a smile at that. It's Phil and Ryan back on Listen Up. And Ryan, Sunday morning. This happened Friday, but I know the problem is you and I love to enjoy our weekends off, Saturday and Sunday. So therefore, we're not going on the pod Saturday or Sundays unless it's a game recap because those are all very important during the season. But Ryan, let's go ahead and get a little bit of discussion in on this Sunday and talk about what happened up there in stores on Friday. UConn women's basketball kicks off the 23-24 season with first night, despite Paige Becker's thumb injury. And I was smiling, Ryan, until I got to that last part of the title. I know you have some updates for me. And we hope everyone else contributes in that comment section after this video is over. So again, here we are with the injuries again. Now, thank goodness nothing serious. I'd rather have it this way than anything to do with the feet or the legs or the lower part of your body, right? So with that said, this is, and if you remember, UConn men's basketball won it all last season. Am I wrong? So
yeah, they did.
It's kind of not to take anything away from the women because I know we focus on women's basketball, but hey, if you ask me, a very exciting Friday night. It was on the 13th, Friday the 13th, up there in stores. And Ryan, I heard we got to see each player, including our good friend KK Arnold, right, come out. They were all introduced. I heard they were all introduced individually, and then they got their own walk-up song, I believe. But who came out last? It reminded me of like a Ray Lewis introduction. Paige Beckers.
Yeah, I think it's always a fun night. Of course, the annual first night kickoff tradition before the regular season tips off, kind of lets the coaches and the players let loose before they have to get down to business, before the regular season officially starts. And it was a sold-out crowd at Gamble Pavilion. I think it usually is a sold-out crowd. So it's a fun night all around for the players, coaches, fans, season ticket holders. The student section was going crazy, I saw. So fun night all around for everybody. And they got to see a pretty good show. There's a surprise, of course. Gino dancing, showed off a couple of his dance moves there when he was introduced. And of course, like you said, all the players coming out. Skills challenge, 3-point competition, shooting contest. So a lot of fun events for the fans to enjoy. Unfortunately, like you mentioned, there are a couple injuries that the Huskies are still dealing with, including the new and Paige Becker's injury, unable to practice 2 days this week. But Gino described it as a minor injury, so hopefully she will be able to return to practice on Monday. But Amari DeBerry and Ayanna Patterson weren't able to practice earlier in the season when the practice did come kind of earlier than we expected. But Amari was able to return, and I believe Ayanna was able to get a little bit of practice in a limited capacity. So Gino is still hopeful that Amari and Ayanna can be ready for the season opener, and hopefully they will be, because they can contribute, I think, a little bit, especially Ayanna. Going off what she was able to do for this team last year. But the four freshmen, including redshirt Ice Brady, continuing to get a lot of work, Gino said. And like he's been hinting at the possibility throughout the offseason, throughout these practices, kind of hinting at the possibility, giving the freshmen a lot of opportunities to play during the season, kind of hinting at a big role. So we're definitely excited to see that for the freshmen. And one last note found this kind of funny, but I guess it is kind of a popular thing amongst all these teams, or most teams that do practice before the season starts. UConn has had referees closely watching their practices, blowing the whistle for any fouls that they see and notice throughout the practice. So hopefully UConn can clean up some of those mistakes and kind of stay out of foul trouble for most of the season, because that was kind of one of the things that I noticed, and I know a lot of people noticed throughout the season. UConn was kind of foul happy at some time. So hopefully they can clean that up a little bit this season.
Yeah, I heard the refs blowing the whistles a lot. I heard rumors of that, so you're right. And now if you very quickly, I want to spend some time here. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to be a big contribution to the starting lineup. I know we're going to, it's coming soon. I mean, today's October 15th, and Ryan, we're going to have our annual episode of Starting Lineup coming out very soon, probably toward the end of the month, right? Because we have UConn Huskies basketball returning in about 4 or 5 weeks. Now joining Becker's, Ryan, it says on the blue team were Ducharme, Arnold, Griffin, Brady, DeBerry, and Betancourt. And then AZ Fudd, Mule, Caden Samuels, Shade, Patterson, El Alfie joined Edwards on the white team. So, Ryan, you had, I think you agree, that's very fitting. As far as practice goes, Paige Beckers and Aaliyah Edwards leading as captains for both sides. Now, let's get into this, because what does this do as far as, in your, again, like your take as always, what does this do? We talked about Europe, right? Is that where they went, right? Europe, yeah.
Yeah,
Am I
Europe.
wrong? Okay, Europe. We talked about Europe. We covered the European tour. We talked about just straight up practice. Practice? How about that? Yeah, practice. Yeah, practice. We talked about practice, and now we're talking about practice now, Ryan, in front of UConn Huskies fans, right? And not only that, the men were in attendance as well, the men's basketball team. Tell me, in your opinion, what does this do, Ryan? Does it give you any more energy? Does it get you prepped for when the season rolls along? Because I've heard from a lot of women's basketball coaches, or coaches in general, the crowd, they love to play. I believe it was Iowa, the Iowa coach last season. I remember sitting in press conference with her, and she discussed about how she would always love to play in a full arena instead of a dead arena. So I don't think the crowd really has a factor on getting in their heads. I think that most of these players and coaches love the crowd getting loud, no matter if you're on the road or at home. What does this do, Ryan? Because usually we talked all offseason about them practicing in quiet arenas, quiet areas. Now, do you think that this raises the level for them, especially the rookies? Man, now you're practicing in front of your fans. And not only that, shout out to all the fans that showed up, Ryan, on Friday night, because, hey, we know who the best fans are in women's basketball.
Yeah, they definitely showed out for sure. It was a pretty electric atmosphere, but I think overall, I think it's good for the team. I think it sends positive vibes throughout the whole, as far as that goes, for the men's and women's. But I think it's just a positive night for everybody. Like I said, it kind of lets everybody let loose for one night and not have to worry about getting down to the serious business. But yeah, I mean, I think it kind of sends them in a positive direction as we head ever so close to the opening tip of the regular season. And yeah, I mean, I think it just kind of lets their minds off of basketball for at least a little bit, and not have to worry about every little thing that Gino's trying to clean up and all the little details and that kind of stuff. But unfortunately, we do have to deal with some of the injuries. But I think, on that night, I think overall, I think the team's kind of has that off of their mind. And I think it does kind of get them a little bit more energized to know that the fans are still showing that tremendous amount of support, selling out the arena to see them, the opening festivities and all that kind of stuff. So I think it does kind of ramp up these women to try to give that extra effort in the upcoming practices that we do have left before the regular season starts.
Now, I tell it how it is usually. Well, always. I try to, at least. I'm not going to say they were disappointed, but it looks like that they weren't highly interested, and we get it. We focus on UConn women's basketball all the time. We love to talk about it. I know you love to talk about it, Ryan. And they weren't that interested per se. No disrespect towards the WNBA, but it's just as far as the topic goes, not that interested in the WNBA finals as far as us giving a preview of that in our predictions. But out of respect, we will get into some comments. I know I told you no comments today, but just maybe two at the most to see what Ryan has to say when it comes to comment time, and then we will head out on this Sunday, Ryan. Let's go with 34S T Zoo. Sabrina broke records, and making the cover of the NBA 2K says a lot about her and her abilities. Plus, I am buying her sneakers.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, unfortunately for the Liberty, it hasn't gone to plan, I would say, so far in the WNBA finals for Breanna Stewart and the rest of the New York Liberty players. Hard to believe it. It's already been a week, and the two games have passed. Kind of a weird schedule that they only played Sunday, Wednesday, and then back to Sunday. A lot of days of rest in between those two games, but
it sounds like you and I nowadays. A lot of days of rest.
Taking a lot of days off.
We need the season to come, like right now.
But no, yeah, I mean, Stewie has, ever since UConn and won a couple national championships there.
Yeah.
Actually undefeated. I think she's 6-0, including college and the WNBA in terms of championships. But unfortunately, they'll have to win 3 in a row if they want to beat Las Vegas now to win the championship. But Breanna Stewart, another incredible season. Of course, making history with the 2K cover, like they mentioned, but hasn't gone to plan thus far for the New York Liberty, unfortunately.
Stevie Kinsey, I'm thrilled. Last one, Ryan. I'm thrilled about the expansion. It's so needed. As far as the finals, it's going to be intense. My prediction is that the Aces come out on top. So, yeah, well, first of all, Ryan, well, I always cut you off. I know this is your part of the show, Ryan, but I have to say very quickly, Stevie is right about the expansion. I know you and I, we say it over and over, and we'll say it again. We dream of hey, 30 plus, right? I know that's a push. That's saying a lot, but at least 30 WNBA teams. We hope, Ryan, that you and I can wake up one day to that kind of world. And not only that, Ryan, but as far as the finals goes, it looks like from what I'm seeing this past week, a lot of people, he says that the finals are going to be intense, which they had been intense. But again, I don't think a lot of people saw this coming, especially we're less than 2 hours away, especially if the Aces get crowned today.
No, I think, I think a lot of people expected these games to be much closer. I know I was. The first game on Sunday night was close. The Aces kind of pulled away. But then on Wednesday night, it kind of got a little bit out of hand. I was really surprised to see that the Aces, I think, just have such a balanced attack, and it's really been showing. Liberty struggling to score a little bit. My X factor, Benijah Laney, kind of struggling to score a little bit. But hopefully for the Liberty going back home today, hopefully they can get a win to stay alive in the series. But in terms of the expansion teams, really great to see. Or the one in Golden State, I think maybe possibly another one was rumored. I'm not sure if I'm correct on that or not. But other which way, we like you said, we hope we can see more teams continue to expand every year, every other year. But yeah, certainly we do hope that more and more teams continue to come, more players can get drafted to these teams, and just overall expansion for the league and the viewership, I think, thus far throughout these whole playoffs, but especially the finals, has been trending upwards. So that's really great to see as well.
All right, shout out to the New York Liberty, Ryan, and this comes straight from the greatest of all time, Michael Jordan. Champions don't become champions when they win an event, but in the hours, weeks, months, and years they spend preparing for it. So, Ryan, the question is, after all that preparing that the Liberty has done, Breanna Stewart and company, have they prepared enough for an 0-2 deficit? It's Phil and Rye on Listen Up.